Now, when I was at Wesleyan, this is the incredible thing. I'm a student at Wesleyan in the master's program. One of the fellas in one of my classes came up to me and he says to me, Stanley, would you like to go to the movies with me tonight? I need somebody to go with me. And I looked at the guy. He was a student, but he was well dressed and he was seemed like a real nice guy, dark hair. And I said to him, what are you going to see? He says, we're going to see the new James Bond movie. Now, I'm at Wesleyan in, what was it? Let's think. 1966, 1960s, 1964. Yeah, 64, 65. He says, we're going to see the new James Bond movie. What's it called? Goldfinger. I had no idea what James Bond was. I had no idea what Goldfinger was. But he said to me, President Kennedy used to read the James Bond books. He loved them. Okay, I'm going to him to see the movie. I said, I'll check with my wife and I'll, he said, well, we have to leave at 7:00. That's after dinner. I was living on Pine Street in Middletown. I had two young sons at that time, and I told my wife, I said, I have a friend asked me to go to a movie with him. She says, "Oh, go." She says, "You're always doing homework, and you're always working. You're always in school." She says, "Go. Have a good night out." So she used to go out with her babysitter friends every so often. So I got dressed up a little bit, and I'm waiting for the fella to pull up, and he pulls up in a brand new car, sport car. I don't even remember what kind it was, but I could tell right away, wow, he has money. And I went out, sat in the car. He gets in, and he says, the movie we have to go to, he said, oh, God, where was it? It was up past Hartford, Manchester. He said, it's in Manchester. And he said, it's a half-hour ride. Why are we going to Manchester? Because nobody will show James Bond movies in any part of the United States except certain parts. And why is that? Because they're British. Nobody likes British movies. Okay, so
I
we're
never
going
heard
to,
of that before.
well, okay, so we're going to Manchester, right?
Hmm.
And I said to him, I said, I didn't realize we'd be going so far. We're right near, you know, I was in North Haven. No, I was at Wesleyan. We're right in Middletown. I thought we'd go to the movie theater in Middletown, you know, but instead we're going to Manchester. And there are a lot of movies playing in the New Haven area, which is closer than Manchester. But he said they weren't playing there. So we drove up to Manchester, and he said to me, he said, and he was dressed in a suit with a tie. He was well dressed. So, as we drove up to the Manchester, it was still light out, and I'm looking, and he says, it's shown in a theater that shows art cinema films. And as we're driving to the theater, I'm looking at the area, and he's got a brand new car. There's all old beat up cars, and everybody in the area is African American. Okay? And I said to him, this is not a good area. It was a rundown area, and he says to me, "Yeah," he says, "it's a little run down," he said, "but he said this is why I wanted to have somebody with me just in case." And I said, "Do you think we'll get into any trouble?" And he said, "No, not at all." And he opened up his suit jacket as we were parking, and he had a holster with a gun in it. And he pulls the gun out, and he says, "Have you ever used one of these?" I said, "No." And he puts it back in the holster and buttons his jacket up again. And he says, "Don't worry." He says, "I'll protect you, and you can protect me." We go to the theater. He pays the admission. We sit down, and I was blown away by Goldfinger. I couldn't believe how great a movie it was. Odd Job with the hat. Okay? Sean Connery as James Bond. I had seen Sean Connery before in a movie, and he was a singer in the movie. He sang a song. The movie he was in was called Darby O'Gill and the Little People, and I had a 16 millimeter Technicolor print of that movie, and we showed it a couple of times. And I used to collect 16 millimeter movies. I had hundreds of them over the years. But what had happened was, I never knew who James Bond was. And I learned from the fella who I went to the movies with. Driving home, he said, "If you want," he says, "I understand that they're going to re-release the first two James Bond movies." And I said, "They made two others?" He said, "Yeah. The first one was called Dr. No, and the second one was From Russia with Love." At any rate, that was how I learned about James Bond. I bought some of the paperbacks and I read them, and they were unbelievable stories. But I found out that they're going to make a whole bunch of them, and by the time this was in the middle '60s when I was introduced to James Bond, and then in the early '70s, I had seen from all the latest ones, Thunderball, and and then I saw the one after that. I forget what was after that. Oh God, I know
Under Majesty's Secret Service.
The what?
Was Thunderball then on Her Majesty's Secret Service?
No, there was another one where he goes to Japan.
Oh, You Only Live Twice.
You Only Live Twice, right? And the Majesty's Secret Service came after Sean Connery would no longer play the part, and the fellow who played James Bond only played it in one James Bond movie, but he made a television show based on James Bond. I have a DVD of the television show. I forget the name of it, but in the movie, in the television show, he's called James, and then every time they say the last name, a noise, a clock bongs or something, or a bell rings. You never hear the last name, but it's James Bond. The TV show is a parody, a spoof, 1 hour. Really nice show, if I remember, but I haven't seen it in years. But at any rate, I never knew Thunderball was supposed to be the first James Bond movie. But because I was into making movies, I learned that there was a fight over who owned the rights. And it turned out that Ian Fleming lost the court battle. It took a couple of years, but they gave the rights to his co-writer. And he had two co-writers at the time, And apparently one of them, when he made a contract, the contract with Ian Fleming said they would be co-writers, but he would not give up any additional rights. And because it said that, Ian Fleming could not get the film rights, even though he owned the James Bond films and he was going to make, them all. He couldn't make the first one. He couldn't make two of them, I'm sorry. He couldn't make the first one, Casino Royale, and he couldn't make the other one, Thunderball, because he didn't have the rights to either one of those.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Please continue to follow and interact with us on both Facebook and Twitter.
If you use Apple IIe, Commodore 64, or Tandy computers, find us on your bulletin board system. Your 5-star feedback is always welcome.
Theme music provided by Checkpoint Charley.
Until next time, live long and may the Force be with you.
Nanu Nanu.